all the children. And yeah, all the children then kind of.
That was that woman the weekend.
Hello, my name is Breda Butterfield and I live in Prospect. I come here to South Hill Community, to the Ladies Club every Tuesday morning. We meet up and have a chat and a cup of tea, and this is how we got involved with the genealogy through our meetings in the mornings. Now I want to start off with my grandmother. She died, Mary Ann Barry was her name. She was known as Mother Barry. Anyone in Prospect would have known her as Mother Barry. And she died in 1969. I have a picture there of her headstone. People around would have, the older people would have remembered her. She was a mother to all of us. I remember when my mother was younger and she was having us, she worked in Limerick prison. So we would have to go to my grandmother in the morning. She'd get us ready for school, and she'd mind the youngest of our family that wouldn't have started school yet. So as we were growing up, our job would have been to take the child up to my grandmother's in the morning and get back down to St. Mary's for school and back up again in the afternoon to pick up that child again. And she minded all of us, like, you know. So, there was 16 in all, but only 9 survived. But we were all one behind the other, so we all had a job to do, like, you know, we all actually ended up bringing the child up to my grandmother to be minded while the next one took it to school when it did reach school age.
1962. I got very interested in the genealogy part of the research into the family history. And the reason why I did it was I was home at about 5 minutes early for my dinner one day, and I was watching Discovery while I was waiting for my dinner. And next thing I see, there was a program on about a plane that went down in the British Channel, a Royal Air Force plane. And I started thinking, and I said, Jesus, I said, my uncle went down in a plane in the British Channel. And I was wondering, was that, they got the engine and the number, was that the plane? Now, I never found out afterwards whether that was the plane or not. But then I started doing a small bit of research into my family, on both sides, on my father's side and my mother's side. And this is a photograph then of my uncle again, James, and a friend of his. The pilot's body was recovered, but the other 3 lads weren't. But there's granduncles and grandaunts of mine that left Clonmel. They lived in a place out in Newcastle outside Clonmel, and they went off to America. And I found out where a grandaunt of mine was buried in St. Raymond's, there in the Bronx. And the reason why I'm doing it is for the grandchildren, more than my own children. No, because I know when I was their age, I was the more interested. And I could have asked the father-in-law questions about his families, like, you know, and I think he used to often tell me. And I wasn't interested, and I didn't write down anything or anything like that. But as I said, over that Discovery program and the plane going down in the British Channel, I was raging afterwards that I didn't ask questions.
Didn't like going to graveyards. As I said to you at the start, it's not one for me to be going reminiscing about the past. I always go to look for the future. And so over all the illness and all that, I don't look into the back. I don't look back into the past. I look for what's coming ahead of me. But I found another interesting thing in that my father's side are buried above in the middle of the graveyards in Mount St. Lawrence. So there's my next project. And I know my uncle then is buried above. His son is buried above an Oliver, and my own mother is buried above an Oliver, and father. Every time I go up there I find it hard to find the grave. Then I found out kind of go back to your Irish roots, and when you're going into a graveyard like that, like say Michael Collins, Emma De Valera, and when you find out that husbands and wives have even split after they're dead. One won't be buried in one plot, that's Sean South, and another one won't be buried in Michael Collins' plot. And it all goes back Even in death, they're torn apart. Like. I'm 45 years of age. That was the first time in 45 years that I ever went into Mount St. Lawrence, rather than going in my grandmother's and grandfather's funeral. It was my first thought, genealogy, what am I going back looking at the dead for? And it had changed my mind out completely.
My grandmother only lived for the first, my great grandmother only lived for the first grandchild, so there was a photograph taken in my grandmother's front garden, and there's 3 generations in it. There's my mother, there's me, my father, my grandmother and my great grandmother. Her father had a couple of businesses in Cork, and she married a constable, which was beneath her, so her family disowned her. And her husband died young. He died at 47. And her only way of making a living was to make the lace for the autocloths in the Father's church. So that is what she did. And when my grandfather died there 4 years ago, I got her gold glasses. The ones that you fold up and that you put on a chain, and they're still in the they're still in a leather little case from London from the 1870s. They're gold ring glasses that you sit on the nose, and that you can actually put them on a chain. So you know, me being the oldest grandchild, I got them. And even with my grandfather now, I am amazed that, you know, that he was an electrical engineer driver in the Anna Crusher, because I didn't know what he did. And it's only when I got it that I found out that his father did much the same thing in Germany. But it was nice to know that he was involved in the building of Anna Crusher. And when you see the painting they have in the Hunt Museum, it's, you know, you can say at least in some part, you know, my family was part of the building of Anna Crusher.
Hi, my name is Patrick Pryor from Roxburgh Road here in Limerick City. I've been doing this genealogy for the last couple of weeks, which has really and truly been very interesting. I have found little bits and pieces of stuff that I never even knew about my own family. From even last night, coat of arms, never knew we had one until last night. But very interesting, very unusual kind of a coat of arms as well. But on the top of it, there was a little bit of Latin writing, so I checked it out to see what it actually said. And I found this quite amazing. It says, "A man of ability may do as he pleases." My dad was not from Limerick, but from County Cavan. Funny enough, when you say he had a link with, not much of a link with Limerick, he spent the last 50 years of his life in Limerick. Wow. So he found it quite a fabulous place. And from an outsider saying that, he was actually quite impressed with it. He always liked it. I was born in Limerick. My sister wasn't, but I was born. But he met my mum in London. Oh. Yeah, he worked for British Rail in London, and that's where he met my mum. And the two of them came back to Limerick. The only links we had to Limerick, that's hence why we were up in Mount St. Lawrence. And as I walked around there, I knew in my heart and soul there's absolutely no body of mine buried up there. Absolutely no one. Yeah. But we do have a big link to Limerick. Because like I said, I was born in my grandfather's house. The only reason why he's in Limerick, he actually originally came from, and my grandmother, from Milltown Malbay in County Clare. So we knew a lot about my mother's side, but very little on my father's side. And as a father and as somebody looking into his side of it, he was an intellectual, a really, really very knowledgeable man, and has left us with inside there, plus inside there, with a lot of memories, and really good memories. I know that even looking at these little few things here might mean nothing to anybody, but it means a lot to me. And
So who would have received that and thrown it into the river? there's really interesting stuff like that. Yeah. So I wonder if that's a place to go.
Oh, my name is Breda McNamara from Crew Park, South. This is my grandfather, Edward Halvey, and his wife was Margaret O'Riordan from Massachusetts in America. So he went over in the 1900s, and she was going with her boyfriend over there, and she met him and they fell in love. So he came home after a couple of years and she followed him home here to Ireland, and they got married here. So they have 10 children, and a lot of them all went to America after that, except my own dad and one of his brothers. But the rest of them all went to America. But this is my own mum and dad then, and he had 10 children. Yeah. Seemingly all the families going back, all generations, they all had 10 children. Mm-hmm. But all our family, we had only 2 and 3 children. We didn't take after my father. Before this, actually, all I knew was my grandfather's name and where he came from in Croom. But now I have found, gone back to, he's my great-great-grandfather since I joined this, and I have found a lot of, and I'm so thrilled actually that we got so much information about it. And I found out then that, I would say, my grandmother's mother's family, they were all priests. Mm-hmm. And canons in Limerick, in St. Munchin's and St. John's, and like she had 3 brothers and they all were 3 priests.
Patricia Sheehan, and I live in 206 O'Malley Park in South Hill. And even though there'll be no rainbow at the end of my story, but there'll be my family, and I'm happy to find out about them. I'll tell you a little funny story about the family tree. I sent it away one time for a record with someone, great-great-grandfather or something. And I was showing it to my son, and he said, "God, man, we're after coming up in the world, didn't we? He's a lawyer." I said, "No, that's a misspelled." I said, "No, he's still a Sawyer." So I always says, "No crock of gold." Is
that you?
My father used to say to me, I'd be saying looking for a shilling, which was big money that time, to go to one of these concerts. Now, we didn't really want a concert because we only just wanted to get off of school. Yeah. And he said one day to me, "You know something, Pat?" He said, "Patricia," I never called me Pat, I'm Patricia. "You know something, Patricia? I think you think I'm a doctor instead of a docker." A shilling was a big load of money that time, you know, which was very funny. Another Daniel Farm.